In this video, I'm going to show you how to transplant seedlings from a big tray like this into something like a 6-pack. And to do this, I like to use this extra fancy tool. This is just a regular old plastic butter knife. And you're going to want to kind of go in to the side and down and scoop, because what you want to do is you want to get the whole root out as much as you possibly can intact. You got to make sure that you don't snap the stem. And usually I like to wait until you've got your first set of true leaves on these plants before moving them. If you only have the cotyledons, that's okay to move them, but you're going to have a little bit less of a success rate probably. So you want to be a little bit delicate with this. I like to use gloves because if you don't use gloves, then your finger oils transfer onto the roots of the plant, and that can have a drying effect and make you be less likely to have success with your plants. So I'm just going to start with, let's see, this one looks pretty good because it's isolated in a corner. I'm going to kind of just go down underneath that and scoop it a little bit, and when I pop it out, I'm going to get quite a bit of soil associated with it. You can shake off a little bit, but then here's what you really want to keep, is this nice little root ball intact that comes with the seedling. Here we can see the cotyledons, which are the seed leaves that aren't true leaves in the plant. They're left over from the embryonic tissue. And then your first set of true leaves right here. This particular plant is a peppermint stick zinnia. So I'm going to take this plant like this, and I'm going to put it into my 6-pack. When I put it into my 6-pack, I want to pre-drill some holes, and you can just do that by wiggling your finger kind of around and making a nice little dibble there for your plant. When I start doing this for mass production, I can go pretty fast, and then I just kind of stab like this, and you can get 2 holes at a time that way, and it makes you go a lot faster. Then I'm just going to take this seedling, and I'm going to put it into that hole, and I'm going to kind of tuck it in a little bit, but I'm going to try to not use too much pressure with my hands. And the reason why is that I don't want to crush those roots with my big awkward fingers. Instead, what I want to do is I want to water this in really good, and I want to let the force of the water be responsible for healing that soil in around those roots. So you don't want to let this sit for too long before watering it in. Your soil should be a little bit moist before you start anyways, because if it's super dry, you won't be able to get these dibbles to stay open like this. The holes will just fall closed if it's too dry, because there's nothing holding it together. But in this case, I can leave this just like this for a second. I'm going to go ahead and fill the rest of the 6-pack, and then I'll water that in and let it heal, and then I'll go on and move on to the next plant. For the most part, you can do this with just about any seedling. If you started trays like this, some people like to start their trays individually where they have single seeds. The reason why I do it this way is specifically because at the Luther Burbank Home and Gardens, we try to keep things as authentic to the time of Luther Burbank as possible, and this is how Luther would have done it. He would have used these wooden flats in particular, and he would have just done mass trays like this. And obviously in the late early 1900s, they didn't have plastic butter knives, but I'm sure he used something that was similar, just like a flat sort of implement. A painter's knife, like a scraper knife, would probably work really well for doing that. Yeah, and then we'll let this grow up in these 6-packs until they get to a certain height, and then we'll just plant them outside, and we'll let them grow and be beautiful flowers. So there you go. 1 seedling in a 6-pack, and that's how you transplant seedlings.